finally here. We have the movie that everybody's been waiting for. That I think we've had one of the most legendary press tours, honestly. Dakota Johnson just being all over the place, not knowing exactly how to talk about this movie. Even at a point, it sounded like Dakota Johnson thought they were actually going to be in the MCU. So a lot of confusion, I feel, with this movie. And a lot of us confused as to how this movie even went through. But let's talk about Madam Web and where exactly it went and where it ends. Because this is the ending explained, and we're just talking about the ending. And I'm sorry if you hate ending explains. I just don't know why you would click on one, honestly. But let's just talk about this movie and all of that. And does this mean Spider-Man 4 will have all of these characters in it? Or what exactly was the point of Madam Web? And was Morbius a lot better, actually? Because that's what I've been hearing a lot of people saying. That's a whole other topic for you to discuss on the interwebs. We're just here to talk about what exactly happened at the end of Madam Web and what it all meant. So pretty much all you have to know about this is that they don't say that famous line you hear in the trailer about Cassie's mother, who is played by Dakota Johnson here, going to the Amazon to research spiders right before they died. It's not even in there. So very much so, we all lost. We all lost there. But what we do see is that Cassie's mother actually tried to find this cure in order to cure Cassie, who at the time is in her mother's womb when they go to the rainforest to try and find the spider, which is the disease myasthenia gravis, which very much so is the same disease that Madam Web in the comics has, which has her paralyzed and not being able to see. But while Cassie's mother is down there researching all of this, they actually end up getting bit by the spider, and so does Ezekiel, who is the villain in this movie. And so Ezekiel is actually responsible for Cassie's mother's death as well. And while Cassie's now a paramedic with their partner, not really their partner, but like their other EMT partner, who is actually Adam Scott playing Ben Parker, of course, Uncle Ben. Yeah, we all know. We pretty much see that Cassie has this vision of sorts where they see Ezekiel is going to try and murder these three young women. The three young women, Sydney Sweeney, Celeste O'Connor, and Isabel Merced. And now Cassie has to save all of them and stop Ezekiel before Ezekiel pretty much wipes them out. The reason Ezekiel wants to do this is because Ezekiel apparently had a vision where these three women ended up murdering him in a alternate timeline. So they want to stop all this before it happens. Cassie needs to save them. And so we have this whole run-in and all of that. By the end of the movie, they eventually end up fighting Ezekiel in this warehouse, and we see that Cassie is on the verge of almost like dying. They've started to get some of their powers, however, it seems, by the end of the movie, and sort of becoming the Madam Web that we know from the comics and all of that. But they are drowning, and it's up to the other girls to save her. And luckily, she was able to teach them about CPR and all of that, so they are able to save Miss Madam Web right here. And we see that Ezekiel then gets killed by none other than a Pepsi display falling on them. And one of the biggest marketing things I've ever seen that just kind of, you got to give him a credit, because that is something I didn't ever think we would see something like that. It's crazy to think Pepsi wanted this marketing thing, and then they got their marketing thing where they actually crushed the villain. And, you know, it kind of makes sense. Pepsi saved the day, and you want a Pepsi after, or you're drinking a Pepsi, depending on your local theater, what they serve. Because some theaters do serve Pepsi, some serve Coke. So I think that's kind of a good way to look at it. I mean, if we look at Madam Web as sort of like experimental filmmaking at its finest, I think it excels in that. But that's a whole other story right there. So eventually we see that Madam Web, who of course is now Madam Web, Cassie, Dakota Johnson, is now blind because of these like fireworks and all that happened when she was under the water, drowning and all of that. Skip all of that, and then Ben Parker lets us know that Peter Parker has been born. Of course, they don't say Peter Parker, but we know it's Peter Parker. You don't gotta tell us. Apparently, in the timelines, this is like 2003 or 4, so possibly could be Tom Holland's Peter Parker if they decide to go down that route. We'll see how much money Madam Web first makes, right? So we now have that all worked out, and it's fine. And now we have Cassie living with all of the girls, but they still don't have their powers or any of that, or their suits. Yes, their suits aren't here at all. And kind of like a big tease, the suits don't come all the way up until the end, until Cassie has a vision where she sees all of them in their suits and their powers. So their powers and their suits will come later if the Sony-verse in fact continues with the Madam Web story and whatever Sony's trying to still do with Spider-Man, which I don't think it ever gets anything right. And pretty much gives us an ending right there. No post-credit scenes, no nothing. So it's pretty much up to you to go watch Madam Web if you want to see these characters again. We do have Kraven. We do have Venom later this year. I have no clue if anything's going to connect anymore. The Sony-verse just seems to be doing whatever it takes in order to keep Spider-Man at bay at the studio and not let it go. But I definitely think it's time to let go, Sony. It's okay. You had a great run. I think that all three Spider-Mans that you did were amazing in their own right. I love Tobey. I love Andrew. I think that you really got it right with Tom Holland's first Spider-Man. And you know what? If you want to, you had a great run. Give some of the rights back to Marvel. Let them cook Fantastic Four and Daredevil with Spider-Man. That's what we need. Not whatever you were trying to do here, because it just didn't happen. I mean, look at this press tour. We can talk about the press tour on its own, just how insane it's been, and everywhere all over, and not really hitting. But Sony, I don't know what else to tell you. That's pretty much your ending to Madam Web. No costumes, no powers. It was just a vision, and it's like you gotta wait if you want it. That's what Sony's telling you. But Pepsi saved the day at the end of the day. Maybe you could do something with a Pepsi hero. I don't know. But anyways, let me know your thoughts and opinions on Madam Web. If you enjoyed it, if you didn't, if you watched it, if you didn't, if you just watched this video, whatever. Let me know what you think. We just had to talk about it because it is insane to me to think that a Pepsi ad was the one who saved the day. But anyways, as always, that is going to do it for me. I'll see all of you next time. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on our website, www.cultureelixir.com. On Twitter, @cultureelixir. Also, make sure you're subscribed and hitting that notification bell here for all the things you love. We just have a video about Late Night with the Devil up today, as well as the South by Southwest Midnight lineup, which we're so excited for. But anyways, as always, stay safe, stay positive.